All right. Hello. Thank you for coming. On behalf of MSU Denver, the College of Business, Department of Management, and the Center for Entrepreneurship, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Week. My name is Becky, and I'll be the host today. And I appreciate all of you guys joining us. Thank you so much. So today we're very fortunate to have with us Genevieve Diettrick. She is the CEO and founder of GD Productions. GD Productions is a modeling and marketing agency in the Detroit, Michigan area. Genevieve is an innovator in the modeling world, utilizing diversity and forward thinking in her business choices. Oh my gosh. So I've known Genevieve for just about a year, and I am constantly amazed at the things that come out of her mouth. Like I have this expectation, and then I'm like, oh my God, I would have never thought of that in so many beautiful ways. So I would like you to tell everybody about, tell us about your business, starting with how you started, because I think that's a magical story.
Well, basically, I've had a few businesses. This is my main one. But, I was in the industry, in the modeling industry, doing runway, print, commercial, promotional events, everything like that. And every time I'd show up, somebody would just be like, God, if I could just get 10 more like you, because it's hard to get people that just show up on time, in a good mood, ready to do the job with enthusiasm. So I was always hustling, doing events, creating my own events. I was involved with things like Hawaiian Tropic and the AVP, Association of Volleyball Professionals, stuff like that. I was always hustling, moving, working around the country, doing auto show, whatever. So one night I was at a bar for an event, and two people that knew me through the industry literally just came up to me and said, oh my God, we just landed the Pepsi challenge. And we're going to be in charge of running this huge program over the summer. We're going to need like 30 people a day, 5 days a week, $10 a day. And I'm like, oh, really, really, really? And then they go, don't you have a company that provides talent? And I didn't, but I said, yes, I did. And I'm like, yes, I do. And they're like, what's the name? And I was just like, GD Productions, my initials. And that's how I started my company. And so yeah, I'll jump right into it. So then, so that was like on a Saturday night, and they're like, great, let's have an open call on Tuesday. And we'll meet your talent. So me and my husband, it's like probably 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. We rush home and we're like, okay, how are we going to do this? And this was before, internet, before you could just send out an email, Facebook blast, Instagram, any of that stuff. So it was about getting flyers together. I was like, okay, I need a company. So I had, I was signed with several modeling agencies. So I just took one modeling agency contract, and instead of their name, I put in GD Productions, because I figured they paid somebody to make sure this was good. So I'm just going to use theirs and change it to mine. Okay. So I did that. And then we did flyers because they were talking about, they had already told me how much the client was paying. They were going to be paying the agency $15 an hour with an expectation to pay the talent $12 an hour. And I did the math. I'm like 30 people a day, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week for the next 4 to 5 months. I can do this no matter what it takes. I'm going to figure out how to do this. So then we made the flyers of saying $12 an hour, Pepsi challenge, summer job, 18 and older, no experience needed, went to the malls, went to the colleges, went to everywhere we could think of, passing out these flyers, not really knowing how it was going to end up. So Tuesday comes, and it's literally, and through my connections with the bar industry, I found a place that would let me use their basement, like conference room, for free.
Oh yeah.
So literally how it worked was people were coming down the stairs. And I had set up a table, and then and then you went into a conference room where we had put the new clients. We put them in there. And so people were literally coming in, signing up for GD Productions, which I wasn't a corporation, a DBA, nothing. I was nothing yet. I was just made up at that point. And literally, so they signing with my agency and walking into the room and sitting down in front of the client. Okay. I had 60 people show up.
Wow.
Yeah. And so my company started on me just going with the flow. Like I seized the opportunity. If I would have told them no, because they had seen me so much around town and I had helped people with events and I was an MC and I did all these other things. They made an assumption that I was more than I was. And who am I to argue with them? Right.
All right. No doubt. No doubt.
So then we started, and what was great is, so we get it going and I'm just going with the flow. I've had enough experience to know what needed to be done. And when I got my first check to pay the talent, I couldn't even cash the check because I didn't have a DBA. I didn't know I couldn't go to the bank and cash a check under GD Productions.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I was 25 years old. I was figuring it out as I went. So then I was like, well, what I got to do? Well, you got to go to the city clerk or whatever and pay $10 for your DBA. And luckily nobody had GD Productions in my county. Otherwise, I don't know, I would have figured something else out. But then I got that, and then a couple months later, I needed I'm supposed to be insured. Ooh, I better go do that. A client would ask for something, and if I didn't have it, I'd just go get it. I mean, I was doing business with liquor companies before I realized I needed to be a licensed broker with a liquor control board. But once I found out, I immediately took care of it.
That's huge. That is just so amazing. So how long did it take you to get the check cashed? Like, how long did it take you to get that official paperwork in order to be able to cash your check and open your account and all that?
One day.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, I went to the bank and I wanted to cash this, and my bank was like, no. And the thing is, it was the first 6-figure check I've ever went to. I mean, I actually got audited my first year because I went from making like not much to 6 digits in 1 year, and I got audited, like red flagged like that. But luckily I had a good accountant, because I at least know I knew at that point there's certain things you have to delegate. You can't, I can't be the jack of trades, master of none, like jack of all trades. So I had a CPA in place, so he was making sure that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing along the way. So when I did get audited, they actually owed me money, and it all worked out.
Oh my gosh. Of course they owe you money, Genevieve.
Yeah. But my accountant said, don't make them pay, because then they'll leave you alone. If you make them pay, then, you basically are making an enemy. And so, and that was 20 years ago, 21 years ago.
Oh my gosh. So tell us a little bit more about like the whole business, because like I said earlier, I think people think when you're talking about modeling agencies, you're finding people that are going to walk down the runway with some garment on.
Yeah.
And I think it's so much more than that.
Oh, it's absolutely, basically we're a glorified staffing company, because you're looking for a specific type of person. You need a female, you need a male, you need a Caucasian, you need an African-American, you need both, you need this, you need that, you need they need to be older, they're younger. And it's like the only industry you're allowed to be like that anymore. Otherwise, you'd be in human resource, like right away. But I even have to train my clients to feel comfortable asking for what they need, because they're so conditioned to be you're not allowed. And, even in the modeling industry, people are nervous about saying, well, I need, my demographic is 20 something. So I need a 20 something,
Oh, I see. I'll say so they're afraid to be politically incorrect by asking, actually, I really need to have this person with this kind of a profile.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But I've also, over the years, broke them away from that too, whenever I had the opportunity. For example, we do off-premise promotions, and oh, my light went off. Hold on. Aha, bright again. I'm in a dark room. Where was I?
You were talking about breaking people out of the stereotypes.
Oh, yeah.
They think
So,
they want.
like off-premise promotions are promotions that you go and do samples in grocery stores and liquor stores. And my clients would constantly want me to send like 20 something, young 20 something cute, girls. And I'm like, and then they'd be, why aren't they selling a lot? And I'm like, well, one, you're trying to have a 20 something sell to a 30, 40, 50 something. The wrong demographic is trying to sell to the wrong demographic. So I got them to realize, you know what, we really need to send people that relate to the customers that are coming through. Moms, maybe some guys, because us women, when we're shopping, we want to get a sample from a good looking guy. They weren't even booking guys to do samplings. So, over the years, I would like put in my 2 cents. Sometimes they'd listen, sometimes they wouldn't. But, you can change the industry just by like pointing some things out that people just kind of, they get in a rut, like they think that's the only way. But you can show them a better way.
Yeah, when you were telling me that story when we were at the pool, and I remember thinking how true that is, because like if you're selling liquor, let's just say you're selling wine and you're demonstrating or passing out or like sampling wine, you're like, and nobody would ever believe a 20-something person about the value of wine. It has
Yes,
to be somebody that's older that knows, because there's wisdom in wine. So
absolutely.
yeah, so I love that idea so
Yeah.
much.
And the modeling industry is, like I said, it's a glorified staffing company. I mean, when I first started, I did the promotions. I booked talent for runway, commercials, auto show, traveling. And then I just realized, I decided who I liked working with. I really liked working with the spirit industry, the liquor companies, because one, it was more bang for my time. More money for my time. Because when I would run it, because I used to model. So when I opened up my own agency, for the first few years, I would run into other models, and they would have their condescending little remarks and stuff like, oh, you're a little agency, maybe you'll, just that kind of stuff. And especially when I let go of the runway and the commercial and all the stuff that people consider glamorous, I got a lot of people thinking that, oh, your little agency, having no idea how much money I'm making in the background, because you can booking a runway model. They need one model. Okay, maybe a print model. They need one model for one day, and they want to see 20 people. And then they're only going to hire them for a half day, full day. The money's not that much for all the work that goes into it. But promotional events, my clients send me a list of 30, 40, 50 promos over the next month and says, book them. And I get to book who I want, and then it's like, it's real quick and it's much more lucrative. It's not as glamorous, but I'm, while other people are stressing, figuring out stuff, running casting calls and stuff like that, I'm at the beach.
Oh,
so
right.
Yeah. So, don't let other perceptions of what is considered successful is so distorted. But it's not our place to teach everybody. Just let them think what they want, whatever.
No doubt. Well, tell us about like what it looks like to promote liquor. So what kind of things, or where are people? How does that work?
Well, it's so varied. They're considered brand ambassadors because, if you send somebody out representing Absolute, they want a certain image. They don't want somebody to show up in sweatpants and, ripped up, whatever. They want a certain look. So, managing people, that's tough. We all know this. And then it's just about, interacting. It's about leaving the customer or the patron that you're interacting with a positive image of you, the promotional model, so they associate it with the brand that you're promoting. Oh. It's one-on-one interactions.
So it would be like somebody, I've experienced this where I'm in a bar and there are people walking around serving, and oftentimes they have some sort of logoed garment on that indicates that they're with Absolute or some kind of tequila company.
Yes.
So that's your people.
Yeah. And the thing is, why I believe I was successful was because I went above and beyond just sending bodies. I actually trained my people how to interact. For example, like when a promotional model would walk up to a table with men and women, who should that female promotional model address first?
I give up.
The females at the table.
God, that's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you're already walking into a situation where you might have some hostility. So diffuse the hostility by being the nice person address female to female. And, you know, and if it's a guy promotional model, he should address the guys at the table first. I mean, there's that kind of training that I put into the talent. And it was all from whenever I'd hear of an issue, I'd add it to my promotional guidelines. So when you work for me, you have to you're given a promotional guidelines, and then you take a test. And if you don't pass the test, you can't work for me. And there are some sneaky fail questions I put in there, like, you know, like a situation where somebody like touches you inappropriately. How do you react? Well, there's 3 choices. And one choice is freak out and get them thrown out. That's a fail. So, you know, I mean, like, this job isn't for everybody. You know, there's certain ways to handle things.
Oh, right. Certain things you probably we know, I mean, going to a bar, we kind of know that sort of thing does happen. So I get it. Like, you have to know how to handle that kind of situation with grace. Wow. All right. Here's a really good question. Have you ever dealt with a bad client or experience, and how did you overcome it? Like, yeah, what has been a bad experience that you've figured out a way around?
Well, 20 years, there's so many. One, I mean, one where I got to the point where I fired the client. And everybody doesn't know that's an option.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Decline. Are you back?
Yeah. Oh, not yet.
Okay.
Oh, you have to start your video again, I think.
What's happening?
I don't know. Isn't that weird?
You cannot start your video because the host has disabled it.
Oh, here. Okay. There you go. Now you should be able to. Let me see. Yeah, start now. You can.
Okay. Try again.
All right. Yeah. Ooh, there we go. Okay.
That was my mom calling. Sorry, everybody.
That's hilarious. Okay. All right. So why would you have fired a client? Like, tell us about what that would mean.
So a lot of the stuff I do is like an a la carte rate. Like, you know, it's, if you ask me to do this, it costs this. If you ask me to do this, it costs this. Okay. So, I would have clients. I had one particular client who would send me a schedule and I would book it. And then they would change the schedule. And then I would have to contact the talent to make sure they're still okay with the change. And it could be a change of a half hour. It could be a change of a day. It could go from morning to night. It was so just too much. And I kept telling them, once you only turn it in when it's ready. And I went months over this. And then I told them, you know, I'm going to start charging you for this. And I came up with an amount because I ended up realizing I did the math and I'm like, I'm spending so much time on this client with all of their changes. It's like a wash. It's not worth my time. And so I was like, I came up with a solution. I'm like, do I really want this client? And I really didn't. So I was like, you know, because you know how it goes. It's just, you know, they're not going to change, but you need to at least attempt to find a solution. So what I did is I came up with fees for all the stuff they were doing that was causing the problem. And I said, here, and they said, well, no, we're not going to pay those fees. And I go, well, then I'm going to have to let you go. And I still remember that conversation. He was so shocked. He didn't understand how I could fire him. And it was like very liberating. And, you know, and we need to realize that it's just like, money isn't everything. Our time is more valuable than money. Like, if you could buy time, how much time would you spend working only to buy more time?
Good question.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the sooner we realize that, the better, or the happier our lives are going to be. Because a lot of times you just keep chasing, thinking that you have to do this, you have to do this because a client's asking for it. And you don't. And every minute you're spending on a client that doesn't appreciate what you do, you're not all the problems there, but you could be doing beautiful things with your own life, or pick up a client that appreciates you more. The thing is, I know I do an amazing job. My people are more prepared than most talent out there, you know, and I'm no nonsense when it comes to what I do for, like, you know, and I've had this conversation with Sophia because she would friend everybody that works with her. And I'm like, you can't do that. You're not friends with them on Facebook. You don't hang out with them afterwards. It's like, you have to, especially if you're a kind person, you have to have a line where it's just like, you know, this is the job, this is the expectation. And if you don't meet it, we're not going to use you anymore. So, I mean, I was so known for being such a hard ass that my clients would call and say, okay, I know she messed up, but don't let her go yet. Like, I was like, you know, I mean, there's just certain things that, you know, you just, sometimes one strike, you're out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my
So
God.
I know that I provide a service and a product that is good. So when somebody doesn't appreciate what I'm offering, it's okay for me to move on.
Yes. I mean, it's and empowering too. It's amazing to be able to say that, because you're right. You don't have to work with everybody.
Right.
It's kind of amazing, especially as a woman, to be able to say, that's not okay. We're not going to work with you. I mean, that
Yeah.
is kind of an amazing thing to be able to say. Must have felt good for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, being in this industry, you know, from the beginning, when I first started my company, I loved not meeting a client until after I've already done work for them. Because they would see me, and mind you, okay, I'm 46 now. I was 25 when I started, okay? So I walk in and they're not taking me seriously, okay?
Oh, for sure.
So, you know, but once I did the job for them and they saw how professional I was, then I felt like the youngness and all that was no longer an obstacle. But I also kept it very professional, especially in my business where, you know, models and liquor, they're like, oh, have a shot with me. Nope, never. Don't do that. You know, it's good to have an image. Even, you know, we all wear masks, and that's one of the masks as a young woman in this industry I had to wear. But 20 years later, I don't worry about it as much because I have 20 years history.
Right. So how did it work out that you got a job, did the work before you met the people? Did somebody just call you and then say, hey, we need you to do this, and then you finally met him later? Is that like what that?
I mean, because I was in the industry before I opened up my company, a lot of people knew of me. So when they heard I started my own agency, they already knew about my work ethic. So and like I said, they would say, if I could just get 10 more like you. So once they realized, they'd contact me. It was word of mouth. People who knew me, even people who didn't. I've never advertised.
Wow.
All my work has been on referrals. So people would contact me because they saw my models out, or they talked to a rep or a distributor that you know, works with me, and they would ask, who do you use, or who would you recommend? And they would give them my name. So I would work with people. I mean, there's plenty of clients I've never met that live in different states, never met them face to face, worked with them for 15, 20 years. I've never met them. They've never seen my face.
Wow. That is so interesting. Hey, now tell us about some of the other industries you're involved with. So the liquor industry, what other things have you?
Well, we had a painting business, the drink and paint business.
Oh, that's right. You guys own one.
We sold it 2 years ago. Yeah, it was, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Painting with a Twist. Yeah, well, it's a franchise. And here's another thing, another opportunity that we seized. Me and my husband went on a date to this painting place, and we walked in, and I was having a great time, but I saw, and this is something I think entrepreneurs should pay attention to. I walked in, and there was a framed thing, article about how this particular painting location was the top grossing location in the country in the first year of their business. Okay. I'm like, one, why are you gloating to your customers? Okay. Why is that up on your wall? to an entrepreneur, I was like, that's a silly thing to put on the wall. I go, because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm looking around going, okay, what are their costs? They're the top one. They're the only one in Michigan. The industry is growing. And so, we did the math. How much would it cost for all the materials and the benches and the teachers? They're employing 2 people, an assistant and a painter. And so we started like thinking about this because we really enjoyed ourselves. And we're like, I love how this made me feel. I would love to do this for other people. This seems like a really fun business. And here we are, 2, business people, no background in art, but none. So we ended up looking into it, called about the franchise. They were so unprofessional in the way that they communicated, because I'm real, like, if you email me, you'll get a response in usually the same day, and there's never an open-ended conversation. If you and I have a conversation about details, I'm going to follow up with an email recapping what we discussed to make sure that there's no miscommunication, right? So this company did not have all their ducks in a row, and they were charging $25,000 for to get the franchise. And when you go into a franchise, you're basically saying, I'm going to give you this much of my money. I got to buy my supplies from you. They own you, right? So me and my husband did the math, and he can source things overseas, and have things shipped here, and paint. And we figured it all out. We could do it for 10 grand. And then I just put an ad in the paper, looking paid work for artists. I got tons of responses,
Oh my gosh.
And we would just meet people and be like, this is what we're doing. And then we had those artists that we hired create the paintings, because that's another thing with the franchise. They're like, oh, we give you this library of paintings. Well, you can make your own paintings, especially these simple paintings, right?
Yeah.
So we ended up opening our own place, and we called it Painting Escapes.
Oh, cute. That's
yeah. So there was that's where, another business that we had where it was like, we weren't looking to have this business, but there was an opportunity and it was exciting. And we saw how we could get into it for a lot less than doing it the franchise way. And so we had it for 6 years, and then then it started to decline, and we sold it, and now we're on to other things.
Wow. So 6 years, that's amazing. And neither one of you actually worked there, did you? You paid people to do it.
Nope, we delegate.
I love that.
I mean, while we had the studio, we spent 2 winters out in Sedona, Arizona. We rented a house for 3 months. So we weren't even in the state. Most of my clients, my liquor clients, didn't even know I was gone the whole time.
Oh, right.
And then we had a manager running and of course, when you do that, when you delegate, you make less, but you are richer. Your life is richer. You have freedom. You can do stuff. It's not always about the money at the end of the day. It's about, what freedom do you have to spend your time? And I know at the beginning, it's all about chasing and money and but, I highly recommend that people that are young to start thinking about designing their life instead of just putting money in the bank, because you get, like, I'm sure everybody's heard this. You get to, I have the house, I have the car, I have the 401k, I have the, I have everything. And then you get there and you're like, aren't I supposed to be fulfilled? And so, it's not all about the stuff. Once you get all the stuff, you realize it's not about the stuff. It's about the experiences. And if you have a job where it's just about going in and making money, you're going to be miserable. So if you're starting out as an entrepreneur from the beginning, make sure it's something that that will work well with the type of lifestyle that you want, because you want to create a lifestyle, or at least in my opinion, before you create your whole work. Work just pays for your lifestyle.
Oh, I totally agree with that. Hey, tell us about what Tony does and how that works with he's a part of your company, and kind of describe that.
Yeah, he, for 17, 18 years, he worked for one of the largest companies in the country selling advertising specialties, anything with the logo, incentive, stuff like that. He was vice president. He had 30 people working under him. He had an office at the Marriott, at Ford headquarters. He was like up there, right? And then oh my
no.
gosh, I don't think I can shut off my phone because I don't know if my Wi-Fi is as good as so it has to go. So
Okay.
at least we didn't lose you there.
Okay.
Yeah. So after 18 years, and thing is, what was funny is I was the gypsy. I was the one that had the business that wasn't secure because I didn't have health insurance and all that other stuff that goes with having a real job working for someone else. And then after, but I had all this freedom. Like there was times I had an opportunity to go to Hawaii. Tony couldn't come with me. So I went with somebody else because he had a real job and he only got so much vacation time and all this other stuff. So, and I'd watch him go off to work every day and I'd still be in my pajamas. I'd have to run out. He'd be on his way home. I'd like, oh, I better get out of my pajamas. My lifestyle was very different. And so after 18 years, his business was sold. His company was sold and they had their own executive team that they were bringing in. So all that loyalty, all that hard work, everything after 18 years. That's the thing. When you work for someone else, your whole life can change in a moment when they decide. When you work for yourself, you have many clients. If one client fires you, you still have many others that you can go to. And a lot of people think having a real job working for someone else is security. And I feel the opposite. So when he lost his job and he started looking for work, he was thinking about it. I'm like, please, 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 please don't go work for somebody. Open up a division of my company and start selling to my clients. Because I would always do the math when he would talk about these big orders. And I'm like, oh my God, if you were working for yourself, you would have made all this, because I'm used to keeping all the money that I make, to not have to share it. And so to watch him like do all the work and have to share it, it was just like, so I convinced him after he talked to some of my clients, and now we're 10 plus years later. And we're both so thankful that he took the leap to go. So now he sells to my clients. And actually the past year, if it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't have made much of anything last year because during COVID, nobody's taking samples.
Oh yes, no doubt. It's like illegal, right?
Yeah, it's like we haven't had any promotions since March of last year. I think we've had 5. Like in November, December, some of my clients were like, let's try it. And it was just, and then the governor changed things. And so here we are in February. We have not done promotions. I'm used to doing like 30, 40 promos a week, and we've had 0. So, but I've also 10 years ago, I decided I wanted to switch my business because hiring talent is very stressful because everything depends on that one person showing up and doing what they've been asked to do. And one person can mess it up for everybody. You can have 100 wonderful people, but you have one bad person that doesn't show up on time, wearing sweatpants, no makeup, just ruins it for everybody else. And so you're always like dealing with situations because it's human. You're dealing with human beings. So about 10 years ago, I started like getting my clients to give me more of their other business that I could be in control of, running their program fund, stuff like that. So I used to be 80% talent, 20% other. Now I'm 80% other, 20% talent. And then I hired somebody to run the talent for me because I got burnt out on that, and I made a lot less on the talent, but I didn't have the headache or the stress or the crying attacks anymore. So Tony has been working with us, and my clients get and order t-shirts, hats, incentives, all kinds of stuff from him.
Now, what is the other parts? Tell us about that. The other program money that is not the talent. What does that look like?
Well, they do sponsorships. They have to pay for bills. They have to pay accounts. They have to pay people. And when you're dealing on a local level, getting money from corporate in New York or wherever else takes time. So I actually had a client of mine, and that's like all of my businesses have always been on an opportunity presented to me or me asking, what could I do for you? Like, where's your pain? Where do you stress out? What what could you give to somebody else to do? And I had a client 18 years ago say, because he it would take 90 days for people to get paid, and that really upsets people. Okay. So my client came to me and said, you know what, why don't we set up a retainer where I get all the program funds from New York for the quarter, give it to you, and then you manage it for me. And then you just keep me updated on, where the funds are going and everything like that. And then that way I pay them the day they ask me to pay them, like boom, like that. So that one client working with me, and he literally told me what to charge and everything. And because I was like, I don't know what you're asking me to do. He goes, I'm going to tell you, you're going to charge this, you're going to charge that, you're going to charge this. And I was like, okay. And I did it. And here, 20 years later, all my clients are on retainers. So I already have their money before they ask me to do anything. So I don't have the stress of worrying about them paying their bills, because I won't pay their bills unless they already have money with me.
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah.
And is it fairly automated? Is that kind of an automated system you've set up, or do you have to go in and do a lot of management?
No, because everything has to be submitted and approved by, a rep will submit something, and then it has to be approved by the brand, so I am like the gatekeeper.
Oh, of money.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's another thing. They trust me because I am so thorough. If you ask me to do something, I'm not going to do it until I send you an email and you reply back in writing that you're asking me to do that. A lot of people get themselves in trouble when they have a phone conversation and they think they know what they're being asked to do, and they do it, and there was some kind of assumption or something and miscommunication, and then that's where most headaches come from. And all my clients know, you can call me and ask me to do something, but I'm going to write down what you're asking me to do. I'm going to send you an email, and then you're going to reply back approved. I'm not going to make a move until I have something in writing that you've asked me to do this. And communication is a real problem nowadays. People make assumptions on what they, or they don't follow through, or, so my clients can count on me that, if a rep over here is asking for something, I'm not just going to take that rep's word and send them $1,000 check for reimbursement or something. My client has to approve it. So, and, they know they can trust me, and I'm to the penny on everything, like annoyingly. They're like, just round it up. I'm like, but it's this amount. Like, round it up.
I'm like, so. Well, so tell us about some of the things that would you consider are your biggest challenges in your business? Either biggest challenges you faced, or just general, this is what is challenging about it.
Challenging? Okay. Well, people are the most challenging. Yeah. I mean, it's just honestly, people are challenging. When your reputation is determined on a day-to-day basis by the next person who shows up to represent your company, it is very, very stressful. Mm-hmm. So that is the hardest part. But when you find really good people, it's amazing, because there really are great people out there. And that's another thing I'd like to think I've changed some of the industry a little bit, at least in my neck of the woods. Because I did, I cover all of Michigan, and at one time I was in all of Ohio, and my clients have asked me to expand, and I said no, because I'm good. I'm like, there's a certain point where it's just like, when do you have enough, and so I have been asked to expand it, and I've said no. So I lost my thought there. What?
Oh yeah, the challenges.
The challenges. Yeah. And that's it. And really people, because when it comes to things that are up to me, it's not a challenge. I know I can count on me.
Right. Oh yeah.
But with that said, you need to delegate or you'll go mad. Absolutely. But I'm also, and be willing to pay for, if you want close to perfection, you need to be willing to pay for that. Like, pay somebody what they're worth. And I think, when we started our painting business, we paid more than all the other painting studios. But we got the best people because of it. And because we had the best people, we had less stress. We made a little less money, but we had a much richer life because we didn't have the stress. So, when I find a good person, I don't care if I'll pay them more than the industry standard, because I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything I wouldn't do myself.
Mm-hmm. Great. That's
yeah.
great.
And that was something I used to tell, like when people would come to me, so what do you provide? What do you do? Like with models, I'm like, as long as it's legal, moral, and pays, I'll consider it. Because in the modeling industry, you get some random.
Oh, I'm sure really random. Hey, so when you first started, did you ever have yourself, okay, you were 25, you started your company. Did you actually actively still model and do gigs, or did you?
No. No, I figured that would delegitimize myself, I guess. I don't know. That was my own perception. I felt like if I was sending out models and still trying to be a model, that I wouldn't be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm. Great thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned something about it, and we all totally can imagine how hard it would be because of age and because you're a woman to begin with. But what about now? Do you feel like do you run into problems because you're a woman and an attractive woman and all that?
No, I think at a certain point when you hit your 40s, people just take you more seriously. And also I have 20 years in the business now. And I'm very confident. So people take me seriously. I don't, I know what I bring to the table, and I'm not, I have confidence, and I don't need them. And that's the key thing. I'm at a point in my life where if I'm not going to enjoy it, I'm not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And what's amazing about that, since I've been doing that, since my husband and I have changed the way we do business, where we only work with people we really enjoy, and we love making their lives better and easier and helping their families. Because, by helping them, we're helping them with their family, like looking at it that way. We've made more money doing less. Like once we changed our perspective on what being in business was about, it wasn't about making money. It was about helping the people that we're working with to accomplish their goals so they could have freedoms like we have. I mean, it's amazing what the universe has provided. I mean, I really haven't much worked in the past year. It's been great. I haven't had to take model calls or nothing. It's been wonderful. And it's given me time to look into all the other things I want to do. But yeah, it's changed, and the universe has provided.
Oh, that's so amazing. Oh, that is so amazing. Hey, so Dalton asked, do you think it's easier or harder now for models to compare to when you started? Like being a model, was it when you were doing it, did it seem like it was easier then than it is now, or vice versa?
You know what? It just depends on the person. I mean, it might even be easier now because people don't communicate like in a professional manner. They don't follow up. They don't, show up on time. They have, or at least this is only my experiences. I find a lot less people, especially young people, that are willing to get on the phone and have a conversation, go up to strangers and talk, because and this is just my perception. Younger people now seem like if it's not a screen or something, it scares them. And so I actually find that it's harder to find good people now as somebody hiring somebody, because what I'm asking people to do is to be one-on-one with people, to be self-sufficient. Like nobody, like when I send you on a job, you're going to be there on time early. I consider 15 minutes early on time and on time late. Mm-hmm. So, it's up to the individual. And when I find those individuals, like, for example, this might not be answering your question, but for example, one of my models, her name's Elena. And she was working for me, and she wasn't the perfect model, but she was determined. Anytime she made a mistake, she'd listen to me and she'd be like, I won't do that again. And she was all determined because she wanted the opportunity, because she was so relentless. Like, do you have any work? Do you need any work in the office? Can I work for you in the office? Do you want me to, all these things? After a year and a half, I ended up hiring her as my talent manager, because I was at a point where I was like, oh, I need, I can't do it all by myself, because I'd gotten too big and I was doing it all myself and I was making myself crazy, because I was taking phone calls till 2:00 in the morning. If a model needed something, the bars were open till 2:00 in the morning. So, I was working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and on call till 2:00 in the morning every day. So she was relentless. And then I gave her the opportunity. And then she wasn't perfect the whole time, but she always was eager to improve. And she always listened. And when I told her something, she did it. Like, you know what? You don't call somebody and not leave a message.
Oh, right.
That kind of stuff. Like, I called them, but did you leave a message? Well, no. Well, what do you expect if you don't leave a message of exactly what, and the message has to be detailed. Like, so if you are a person who is detailed oriented and will follow up and can be counted on and be dependable, even as a model, any industry that you're in, us older people that are in the position of hiring you, whether it's your business or as an employee, you're a breath of fresh air, because there's so many excuses out there now. Oh, I was, all these excuses. I've had them all. I mean, I've had a girl say she couldn't go to work because her feet hurt. So, I mean, and it's just like, oh, I got in a fight with my boyfriend and he stole the keys to my car, so I don't know what to do. Like, get an Uber. You know what I mean? Like, be a problem solver. Okay. So it's just like, if I want I am always looking for people, model or whatever I'm working on, whoever I'm working with, I'm always looking for somebody that'll just take what I ask them to do and actually do it. And if a little problem comes up here, and be a problem solver, and don't be afraid to pick up the phone and ask questions. That's another thing. People are so afraid to ask questions. Like, they're afraid of looking dumb. I'm 46. I still don't know what certain words mean. And somebody will use a word. I'm like, what does that word mean? And they're like, you've never heard that word? I'm like, no. And I'm not ashamed to say it. So it's, and and those kind of things can spiral out of control. Like, you don't understand a word, so you make an assumption, and then you mess up something down the road because you made an assumption about a word. You were too afraid to ask what the meaning was. Especially in the lingo now, everybody talks in code, especially in industry. Like, I could sit here and go, off premise, on premise, but nobody knows what that is. Off premise is grocery stores and liquor stores. On premise is bars and restaurants. Okay. But, if you don't ask questions, then you're not somebody I want to hire or work with, because that means I've got to solve every problem for you.
Right. So when you're in an interview, when somebody is like, you're sitting and interviewing somebody, you say, do you have any questions for me? And they say, oh no, you probably want to strangle them. Yeah, gotta have
I always like it when people have questions, but literally I used to have open calls. But I used to have open calls where literally I would see 60 to 100 people once every couple of months. And I would be able to tell if I would hire that person within the first 10 seconds of them walking in the room and sitting down. It's about the way you walk in. It's about, even, how you sit down, if you're smiling, if, it's just an aura, like what you give off, especially in promotional events. Like, if you don't feel approachable, then you're not right for my company. Like, if you walk in and you're, and you're nervous and stuff, it's not going to work.
That is, that's all that information is so good for everybody listening. Like, just visualize yourself walking into a space, and how would you be in that space? Would you be looking around going, everybody's better than me? Or are you going to say, oh my gosh, I'm a unique person in this environment. I'm sure I add to it.
And there's a difference between cockiness and confidence.
Yes.
So when you walk in, be engaging, but listen to what a lot of people don't listen.
Mm.
And they're already thinking about what they're going to say in response before the person that's talking to you is finished with their sentence. So don't come into an interview with, like, I did no preparation for this. I don't know if that's good or bad, you decide. But I'm not, like, you sent me the questions, I'm like,
That's good. That's good. It's better, probably.
Because if you're thinking about all the answers, like what you're going to say, you're not listening to the person. It's like, just be confident in your ability and take a pause. If somebody asks you a question, it's okay to, like, maybe not have an answer for that. And I love that more than somebody who comes up with, a canned answer.
Yeah, like 5 points that they thought of overnight or something.
Yeah, that they wanted to make sure they say to me in my interview, right? And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh. It's like, I can just be genuine, because, I can only speak for myself as somebody who's been hiring for 20 plus years. Artist, even the artist I knew within the first few minutes of walking in if I would be able to hire them or not. The way you walk in, the whole package. It's not just what you say, it's what you emit.
Right. Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, every minute of every day, it's that.
Yeah.
As a teacher in a class, what I say is hardly as important as, the love and expectation and confidence I have in my students, Like
Mhm.
That's what people get out of a class. And that's what people get out of your people that show up, a concern, a love. Hey, I want to talk to you. And I've got something to share. So it's, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And this goes for clients too. Like, I'll get a referral from someone and I'll go do some research on that client before I call them back. And I have questions, it's like, a certain brand, it's like their history is this, or this. Well, I have questions about their history, and they know you did your homework. So you're not just calling blind and you know nothing about the company and you want to represent them.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's basically an insult. You didn't even take the time to go to my website, so that's important. But then when they're, I let the client tell me what their needs are, but I also have questions for them from what their needs are and from what I saw on their website. Ooh. And I'll even tell them right out of the gate where I think they could improve.
And I'm sure those people that do listen are highly benefited by that.
I would like to think so.
Yes. I know that the idea or topic of listening has been something really big. And I think it stems partially from the idea of the mask issue and us having masks. And, we're not hearing each other as easily as we used to. So we do have to listen better. So it's almost a symbolic situation of, hey, shut up and listen. Listen. We need people to listen. And so,
I have something to recommend.
Oh, yeah.
Entrepreneurs, go take an improv class, because improv is all about listening, and it is hard. It is hard to do improv. Like, you're in a room and somebody's like, you're already thinking, you're like, when I did improv, we had engineers that were sent there from GM so they would learn how to listen. Okay. And improv is awesome because, one, it's really freaking fun. And it gets you out of your shell. But improv is, you have to listen until the very last word before you reply, because they could be like, you're starting a scene and you're two people in the fish market, but your partner goes, oh, wow, you're really looking beautiful today, even in your spry age of 104. Like, if you're already thinking about what you're going to be, no, all of a sudden you're 104 spry lady, whatever, or maybe you're a unicorn, but you have to listen and respond accordingly. So improv is amazing for people to learn how to listen, really listen, and then also to get you out of your shell. And it's a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine doing that. And it would be great.
Mm-hmm. I'll do it with you next time I see you.
Okay, good. That's so good. Hey, so where do you see yourself in the next year, 5 years? Where do you see yourself?
I have so many ideas. I know I my company has been beautiful, and it's clear saying like I'm basically like a 2-day work week at this point, and I'm loving it. But I'm also bored with all the other time I have. So I'm looking into several different things. I really like the self-led retreat space idea.
Oh,
We bought 20 acres in the Huron National Forest in Michigan, and built a barn on it. And we're thinking about how we might be able to create a space for weddings or events and stuff like that. Right now, it's just for friends and family, and we're kind of figuring it out as we go. But connecting with other people who have similar ideas, like Martha and Joe that you've met.
yeah.
There's and Ryan, who has a place in Belize, but like connecting. I'm all about connecting with people who want to be creative right now, because right now I'm not about the money, I'm about the experience. So I'm willing to give my time freely if it's going to invigorate me.
Yeah.
So I'm in a very unique situation. So anyone out there that has some, like, I'm open to pretty much anything as long as it feels good.
Hey, so you said self-led retreat centers. Does that mean that
Yeah.
you rent your space out for other people to come in and lead the
Yes.
retreat, not you guys leading the retreat?
Right. I mean, that's how I think that would be the most hands off, where I could live in Costa Rica for 3 months while this thing runs itself, kind of thing. Find somebody local to just clean it up in between. But like provide a space that has everything you need, like a kitchen and bathroom and all the things, like if you wanted to have a bachelorette party where you rented 20 acres and you're all camping or in like guest RVs or little tiny homes, and then you can have a chef come in and teach all your friends how to cook something on the fire or something, like, but you like rent the space, and then you do whatever you want with it. You want to have a wedding there, you have a wedding there. Like, it's just about providing a space for somebody to be creative, because not everybody can have 20 acres in the forest, but they might want to have a wedding there where all their friends are camping over the weekend, and then they get married. I built a thing called the Church of Nature. So it's just like, and you'll get married in the Church of Nature. And I also got ordained. I can marry people.
Well,
So
that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So I could dress up and whatever. I'm just like, I'm all about the fun right now. I'm about the fun and the experiences and that kind of thing. I really don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm still doing what, the modeling, the promotional events and stuff like that. But because of COVID, I've had a lot of time to figure out a lot of other stuff I would love to do. And, I'm going to be 50 in 4 years. So I'm on my way out of worrying about making money. I made all the right decisions. I put money away. I got long-term care insurance. Kids, get long-term care insurance. If you get it now, it'll cost you a lot less than trying to get it when you're older. Like, I have lifetime insurance that I paid in 10 years and it's paid in full. That would be one thing I'd recommend people, especially entrepreneurs, to look into, because me and my husband are dinks, double income, no kids. And a lot of people are, what are you going to do when you get older? Well, I'm going to have a professional take care of me. So those kind of things when you're young get into place, so you can have the freedom and peace of mind when you get older.
I love that. That's a great,
Yeah.
great. Oh my gosh. Hey, so I've been asking everybody this, and it might be, I think a lot of things, there's a lot of ways you can answer this, but what would you say, tell us something that would surprise us about your business lifestyle. What would surprise us?
I mean, it's not glamorous. I'll tell you that.
Oh, and we do think it is. That is totally true. We think it is totally a glamorous thing to do that, to be
It
in a
is
model.
not glamorous. It is very stressful. And there's, whether it's auto show, print, commercial, promotions, everybody they're doing it for a reason. So it's not just about being pretty and show up. They want sales, they want return, returns on investments, all that stuff. It's all important. And that has to all, and if you don't deliver, they're going to go somewhere else. So, you know, your product, even if it's a model, is still very important. And, you know, it's not all glamorous. I mean, and in the modeling industry, you can be perfect for one thing one day, and then, you know, I used to be told I look too much like a boy. I'm too chesty. Like, what? I'm a 34B. Like, it was like I'm too chesty, not chesty enough, too boyish, not boyish enough. It's just like, just go with there's just so many things that you think that modeling is, and it's not for the light of heart. I mean, if you're sensitive, definitely don't go into this industry unless you really want to shatter that, because, but it is, once you get through it, you're like nothing, like everything, whatever, like nothing bothers you anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Opinions and perspectives. Everybody has a different perspective.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Cause I can see that would be super important. You know, we all are evaluated every day by people around us. And, you know, you have to at some point let that go. And so, you know, you might let that go as an older person because it doesn't matter anymore. But as a younger person, to be able to say, hey, yeah, I'm right for some things, not right for others. It's going to be that way every day of my life.
Yeah. And I wish I would have known that sooner. You know, because the first 10 years of my business, I worked my ass off making sure that every single client was happy, even if they made me miserable. And if somebody would have just said, hey, Jen, you know, it's an option. You don't have to work for that person. What? Really? It's like, yeah, okay, you might lose 10 grand a year because you let this client go, or 20, whatever the amount is. But what's more important? And every time, and if you close one door, another one will open, right? They always say that. And it does. It happens every time. Like, the universe always provides. It's like everybody stresses out about tomorrow. And it's just like, here I am. It's like all those things I stressed about. I used to cry when a model wouldn't show up. Like, I'd cry and I'd get all stressed out. Like it was the end of the world, like the end of my business. And it was just like, why did I put myself through that? It's like, at the end of the day, and I know this seems a little hoo-hoo, but when you get to the end and you're dying, you're not going to worry about this client problem and this one. Just do your best and just surrender to whatever happens, because know that if something goes wrong, you're capable enough of correcting it. And, you know, the 4 agreements I would recommend.
Yeah.
The 4 agreements. Do your best. Don't make assumptions. You know, be impeccable with your word. That's important. And don't take things personally, because if you do those 4 things, it's just like, you know, if something goes wrong with your business, don't take it personally. I used to take it so personally, like it was something. Oh, my whole reputation is ruined, and you know, it's just like it's so silly. You look back and you're just like, it's so silly.
So silly. I know. You always have to have that experience to then decide not to have that experience. So be a part of the problem, and then you realize, wait, that was dumb.
Yeah. And if you make a mistake, admit it. That's another thing. You know, my clients, they know I'm like, oh, that was my bad, you know, but don't pussyfoot around it. Just be direct and say, you know what? I made an error. It won't happen again. I see. And I'll even point out, like, if something was wrong, I'll be like, this is what happened. This is how, but I see now this is this, and it won't happen again. So I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. That wasn't always the case. but now, you know, once I got all out of my own way, like all the stuff that you think you need to be, life is a lot easier, and even business is a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Hey, so this will be kind of an in summary, because you've already given so much good advice. So what would you say, like giving advice to entrepreneurs, what would be 3 things you'd say? You've already said a bunch. So even if you just recap those, that'd be great. Like the whole time you've given us all kinds of good advice.
Well, be consistent and dependable. Follow up with people. Just be accountable. And don't be afraid to ask questions, because sometimes the clients don't even know what they need. They're asking you to do something and they don't even know why they're asking you to do it. So ask them why, and then go, well, and be okay to like give them your ideas. And if they don't like your ideas, it's okay. Just don't be afraid to communicate, but also make sure you communicate consistently. Don't ever leave a client hanging. Like, I'm usually the last one to reply on an email chain.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
I like to close email chains. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yes.
And that helps when people says, we said this, you asked, and then I also have it in my email box 6 months later. I'd be like, whoop, forward, see? And then it's not my problem. And, and when you put everything in writing, that's another thing, put everything in writing. And email is writing, not text. Because people text back and forth, follow up in an official email. I know it seems old school, but when you're dealing with clients, especially us older generation, that is very important for, consistency there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Genevieve, thank you so much for all this amazing information. It's been so wonderful having you share yourself and your story with us.
Thanks.